Hi, y'all, and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome and glad you found us. I am JoJo, and it is great to meet you. We are about to talk about another true crime case and hopefully see justice be done. But before we do, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, click subscribe and turn your bell notifications to all so you can make sure to be notified when I post new videos. Thank you, everyone, for all your support. It means the world to me. Now sit back, kick off your shoes, grab your tissues and stress balls, and let's dive in. The content you are about to watch contains the subject matter of a real-life true crime event. Therefore, it is not suitable for all ages and is only intended for adults.
We're going to watch this short little video. It's only 2 minutes. 1 second.
The crime of child endangerment is when you either inflict mental or physical suffering on a child, or you allow a child to be in a situation that's inherently dangerous. Now, keep in mind that the child does not have to suffer actual harm. So, for example, you may have a loaded gun in your home, and it may be in a situation where it's not locked up and children have access to it, and you could be charged with child endangerment for that, even if the children never go and touch the gun. Or it might be a situation where you're driving while under the influence and you have children in your car and you get pulled over. You can be arrested not only for DUI, but also for child endangerment. Even if
That's
there's no
interesting.
accident, even if the children are never actually hurt, just the fact that they were put in a situation that's inherently dangerous for them is enough for the authorities to charge you with this. Now, child endangerment is a wobbler. That means it could be filed as a misdemeanor or a felony, depending on the circumstances. If it's filed as a felony, you could face up to 6 years in state prison. And perhaps worst of all is if you're convicted, you could lose your children. CPS could take custody of your children and put them in a foster home. And so the consequences can be very devastating. Now, that said, child endangerment is one of those crimes where we see a lot of innocent people getting accused and tragically, a lot of innocent people being convicted. Now, for example, it may be a situation
Jake is not innocent, though,
where somebody else had responsibility and not you for the children at the time. Or it may be a situation where somebody else created the danger and you weren't even really aware of it. It may also be a situation where you took adequate steps to protect the child, but the police are simply making a big case out of nothing and blowing it out of proportion. Here at Shout's Law Group, we've had a great record of success in defending people over the years in these very situations who are charged with child endangerment and ultimately getting the charges reduced or dismissed.
So in other words, you defend monsters. So we went ahead and watched that little video clip. So mainly what I wanted to get out of that is the fact that right here, there was a possible unaliving or great bodily injury. And that's where we were at with Promise Faith. So he was charged with a felony, and that is 2, 4, or 6 years in prison and or up to $10,000. There's a little asterisk over here as far as the penalty goes. It says courts can grant probation in lieu of jail. So essentially that's what he did. He gave him the 6 years sentence in prison, but then he suspended that sentence. At least this is my understanding anyways, and I could be wrong. Forgive me if I am wrong, because I'm no attorney or anything like that. Never claimed to be, never will claim to be. But in my understanding of this is that because he ended up giving him the 6 years in prison, and then he suspended that sentence, and in lieu of the sentence ended up giving him the probation instead of jail, that if he ever did screw up and he ended up getting a violation of probation, then that 6-year sentence kicks in and he cannot appeal it because he's already been sentenced to it. At least that's my understanding based on what I read in the transcript that he said to him, and reading this here to where it says that they can grant the probation. Now we're going to move on to the probation part. And we're going to watch this little video here where they talk about the probation.
I'm criminal defense attorney Neil Schaus with Schaus California Law Group. Probation in California is a sentencing alternative that lets you avoid jail or prison after a conviction as long as you follow court-ordered terms. It can apply to both misdemeanor and felony cases. Misdemeanor probation, also called summary or informal probation, is usually unsupervised and lasts up to 2 years. Felony probation, or formal probation, is more intensive, supervised by a probation officer, and can last up to 5 years. Common probation terms include paying fines or restitution, attending counseling or treatment, completing community service, staying employed or in school, and avoiding new legal trouble. For felony cases, you might also be required to wear an electronic monitor. If you violate probation, you are entitled to a hearing. But keep in mind, the standard of proof is lower than in a criminal trial. The judge only needs to find it more likely than not that you broke a rule. You may request early termination of probation if you've been in full compliance and can show personal growth and hardship.
They better not give him no early release or anything off of probation. At least, I mean, well, considering the current circumstances, I doubt he's getting any kind of early release from probation. There's no way.
And once you complete probation, you may be eligible to get your record expunged. If you or a loved...
There's definitely no way in the world that he's getting any kind of expungement, because personally, in my own opinion, yeah, his probation's going to be revoked and he's going to prison. And the way I look at it anyways is that 6-year sentence for Promise Faith should be tacked on to whatever he's convicted of for Emmanuel. At least that's the way I see that it should be done. I don't know if that's how it's going to be done. I guess we'll just have to play that waiting game and wait and see what happens. All I know is that I just hope that they find that precious boys remain somehow, some way.
Loved one is facing criminal charges related to probation in California. Don't wait.
No, thank you. I don't need your consultation because I'm not going to commit a crime, plain and simple. Anyways, let's move on down here. Okay, we already know what probation is. Okay, there's the different types of probation, which he talked about. And right here, the length of probation for felony probation can be up to 5 years. So the judge did not give him the max on the felony probation. He gave him 4 years. He gave him 48 months. That was 2023. So he's on probation until, oh, my head's not mathing right now, 2027. And we're in 2025. So he's only halfway through that probation. I don't know if your probation is revoked, because his probation has been revoked for about a year now. I'll put it down in the description, but I did do a video on his probation violation on that case record. So if I remember correctly, it's been around about a year now since his probation has been revoked. So he only actually did about a year worth of probation. So does that mean that even if they did reinstate his probation instead of throwing the 6-year sentence on him at his probation hearing once he finally gets to it, then does that mean that it's like that whole time that his probation has been revoked, that he is basically like pausing his probation, and that if and when it does get restarted again, that it's restarted at wherever it was when it got revoked? So say he did 1 year when his probation got revoked, and then for a year he was on revoked probation. Instead of him having credit for 2 years of probation, he would only have 1 year's worth of credit for probation. So once he, I don't know, I'm probably confusing y'all, like I'm trying to confuse myself here, but once he ends up going back onto probation, that would mean that he would start out with only a 1 year credit of probation, so he'd still have 3 more years of probation to do. Am I correct in that thinking? Maybe it'll say something in here. How do I get probation? We don't really need to go into that. Traveling, no. Can it end early? There's different factors in that. Violations. This is what I wanted to get into. If the court learns that you may have violated a probation condition, it may issue a warrant for your arrest or a summons for you to appear in court. Either way, you are entitled to probation violation hearing, PVH, where the court determines whether you did violate probation and, if so, whether to revoke your probation. Now, it's already been said that his probation is revoked. Probation violation hearings, PVHs, are like mini trials that both you and the prosecutors get to admit evidence, make arguments, and call witnesses. However, PVHs are more difficult for you to win. During a criminal trial, prosecutors bear the burden to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high bar. In PVHs, prosecutors only have to show that you violated probation by a preponderance of the evidence, which is a much lower bar. In short, the DA only has to show that it is more likely than not that you violated probation for the judge to find that you committed a probation violation. Consequences of violating probation. If the judge finds at the PVH that you did indeed violate a term of your probation, they have two choices. 1, give you a second chance by letting you remain on probation, sometimes with harsher terms than before. Or 2, revoke your probation, unsuspend your original county jail or state prison sentence, and remand you into custody. When deciding what to do, the judge will take into account such factors as whether whether this is only your first violation or what the probation department recommends. Expungement, we're not worried about that. So it doesn't say anything on here regarding my question. While I was editing this video, I got curious about my original question. I just had to go down that rabbit hole and end up finding an answer to my question because I couldn't leave it unanswered. I found my answer and I just wanted to go ahead and share it with y'all just in case you had the same question as well. In California, when probation is revoked and later reinstated, the time during which probation was revoked does not count towards the original probationary period. Instead, the time is paused or told and is effectively tacked on to the end of your probation term. This means if you served 100 days of a 730-day or 2-year probation and then it was revoked, you would still owe 630 days when probation is reinstated. So basically, what I had thought is that it's pretty much like a pause. How this works is tolling the period under California Penal Code 1203.2, subsection A. The revocation of probation effectively pauses the running of the probationary period. Extension of terms. Original termination date for your probation is extended to account for the period of revocation. A second chance. A judge may decide to reinstate probation with the original or even stricter terms rather than sending you to jail. But this doesn't erase the violation or make the time count. Consequences of revocation. Extended probation. The judge can extend your probation term to make up for the time lost during the revocation. Harsher terms. The judge may add more restrictive conditions to your probation, such as more frequent check-ins with your probation officer or therapy. Jail time. The most severe consequence is that the judge may revoke probation entirely and order you to serve the rest of your sentence in jail. Bye-bye, Jakey boy. Alright, I'm gonna end this and I'm gonna bring it on back to the original footage. Bye-bye, y'all. So I guess I'll have to dive deeper into that to actually find an answer to my question, but it really is kind of a moot point at this stage in the game because of the fact that I really don't see him getting out of this regardless in any way. He's done totally screwed the pooch on this one. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. He has to. And if they don't, and man, California, you're going to have every criminal coming to your state then and committing crimes. And I mean serious crimes if you don't put this man away for the rest of his life. I think that they're going to put him in prison for the rest of his life just to make an example out of him because of the fact that they screwed up once already. I don't know. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? I'm going to get out of here. I will have the transcript on one video and then this little side trip will be onto another video which I will link into the premiere of the transcript video. But either way, I will catch y'all on the flip side and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out my video, and I really do appreciate all of y'all's support. I am so happy that y'all are keeping Emmanuel in your thoughts and prayers and that you're keeping his story out there. And you're staying up to date with what's going on in this whole case because his story needs to be out there. The injustice that has happened in this whole situation between Promise Faith and Emmanuel, it needs to be front and center out there because that's the only way that things are going to change is if people keep this story alive and keep it out there and keep the mistakes out there so that people realize there is something seriously wrong with our court system that they would let a man like this out there. Today was Labor Day. And think about it. Why do we have Labor Day? We have Labor Day because a few people made a stink and ended up making a change that affected the rest of our country. And now, the first Monday in September every year, we all get the day off. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a few people that called for a change and called for appreciation. So we really need to think about making a change to these laws. I do need to cut this video. With that being said, I do appreciate y'all taking the time out of your busy day to go through this transcript with me and see what actually happened that day when the monster, Jake Haro, ended up pleading guilty and was sentenced with a slap on the damn wrist. And I will catch y'all on the flip side. Stay safe out there, y'all, and stay happy. Bye-bye now.